Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at how a literal insect, yes, a cockroach, somehow became the face of India's largest youth uprising. It's an absolute masterclass in modern digital protest. We're going to see how a viral meme essentially transformed into a fully structured political movement and one that is demanding real systemic accountability.
Okay, look at this number, 22.2 million. That is a staggering amount of people. That's the number of Instagram followers a completely satirical joke party amassed in just a matter of days. They call themselves the Cockroach Janata Party, or the CJP, which, is an obvious play on the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. But you really have to wonder, right? How does a fake political party led by a bug gather a digital swarm of over 22 million people? That is more than double the following of established national political titans. Well, to understand this, we've got to look at the deep-seated frustrations of Indian Gen Z.
Section 1. The Cockroach Spark. So it all started with a controversial judicial remark that completely unintentionally sparked this massive digital movement. Back on May 15, 2026, during a Supreme Court hearing, Chief Justice Surya Kant made a comment comparing certain youngsters to cockroaches and parasites of society. Now, the Chief Justice did quickly issue a clarification. He stated his comments were strictly aimed at people acquiring fraudulent legal degrees, and that he actually views India's youth as the pillars of a developed nation. But here's the thing. For millions of young Indians who are trying to navigate this brutal job market and a super stressed education system, that clarification didn't really matter. The cockroach label hit a really raw nerve. To them, it felt like an accurate description of how the establishment truly views them.
And the underlying economic reality fueling all that anger? It's pretty stark. India produces over 8 million graduates every single year, but the unemployment rate among them stands at a massive 29.1%. Just to put that into perspective, compare it to the roughly 3.2% unemployment rate for folks who never even attended school. On top of this, you have millions of students who recently dealt with the cancellation and massive controversy of the NEET medical entrance exam because of widespread paper leaks. So, when the word cockroach started trending, Gen Z didn't just get mad, they weaponized it.
Section 2. Designing a parody party.
So, how exactly did a 30-year-old PR graduate named Abhijit Deepke turn that insult into a heavily structured platform overnight? Well, the sheer brilliance here is the irony. Deepke launched the CJP basically as a mirror to traditional politics. Just look at the contrast. Their self-deprecating entry criteria require members to be physically lazy, chronically online for at least 11 hours a day, and possess professional ranting abilities. But those sit right next to highly serious systemic demands. We are talking genuine legislative goals here, like 50% reservation for women in parliament, invoking anti-terror laws against election officials if legitimate votes are deleted, and a super strict 20-year ban for politicians who switch parties.
They're using this thick layer of irony to mock traditional political structures, while, at the exact same time, demanding absolute transparency. The CJP went ahead and appointed 3 official spokespersons, including investigative journalists and IIT alumni, Saurav Das, Vijitha Dehaya, and Ashutosh Sharenka. And getting advice from actual activists, they declared this mock party fully answerable under the Right to Information Act. They also explicitly banned the creation of any secret Cockroach Cares Fund, which, if you follow Indian politics, is a really direct, satirical jab at the government's opaque funding mechanisms.
Section 3. A massive digital swarm.
In just a matter of days, the CJP's digital footprint completely eclipsed the ruling party of India. The BJP, which is often touted as the world's largest political party, sits at 8.8 million Instagram followers. The CJP, they rocketed past 22 million. That's insane. They leveraged AI tools to generate manifestos and these really sleek graphics, tapping directly into internet meme culture. It just perfectly captured that Gen Z vibe, using humor and digital savvy to channel deep frustrations about unemployment and electoral accountability into a literal swarm that the political establishment simply couldn't ignore.
And guess what? Traditional politicians absolutely noticed. Prominent opposition leaders actually began endorsing this satirical collective. Samajwadi Party President Akhilesh Yadav went viral simply by posting BJP versus CJP. Trinamool Congress MPs like Mahua Moitra and Kirti Azad were publicly asking for membership applications. Even the renowned environmental activist Sonam Wangchuk threw his weight behind them, declaring himself an honorary cockroach. What started as a Gen Z inside joke was literally dominating national political discourse.
Which naturally brings us to a super fascinating question. If this viral joke actually tried to register as a formal political entity, could they actually use a cockroach on a real election ballot?
Section 4. The Animal Symbol Ban.
Well, as it turns out, no, they couldn't. Election Commission rules strictly regulate what symbols unrecognized parties can use. They usually limit them to free symbols. Think frying pans, dustbins, or household appliances. But animals? Completely off the table. Why? Okay, so back in the 1989 Tamil Nadu elections, a political faction used a rooster as their symbol. Tragically, this led to thousands of live birds being tied to fast-moving vehicles. So, in the 1990s, animal rights activist Maneka Gandhi successfully petitioned the Election Commission to ban the use of live animals as symbols to prevent cruelty. Because of this bureaucratic hurdle, the CJP actually adopted the smartphone as its mock election symbol instead, which, honestly, is a pretty fitting choice for a chronically online movement.
Section 5. Hitting the streets.
What's really wild is how fast this transitioned from an internet meme to a real-world public protest. The speed was breathtaking. The initial spark happened on May 15th. By May 16th, the CJP is live. But then, real-world consequences hit. On May 21st, the government blocked the CJP's official X handle, which already had 90,000 followers, under the IT Act, citing national security concerns. Their website was temporarily taken down after launching a petition about the exam leaks, and founder Abhijit Dipke even received anonymous death threats. But rather than scuttling away, this digital swarm decided to march right into the physical world. They organized their first public protest in New Delhi on June 6th.
Picture this surreal scene at Jantar Mantar, which is India's most famous protest strip. You have hundreds of young people wearing these satirical cockroach masks, holding up school textbooks to symbolize their right to education. They're out there chanting for the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan over the NEET exam scandals. But contrasting this totally absurd meme-like imagery was a highly serious, heavy police presence. Authorities deployed riot gear, steel barricades, and dozens of official police photographers recording the protesters with body cameras. It was quite literally the internet colliding head-on with state power.
Section 6. A global protest blueprint. Now, this isn't just some isolated incident in India. This movement actually perfectly reflects a larger historic South Asian trend. Across the region, like in Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bangladesh, we've seen youth populations successfully use deep digital savvy, memes, and irony to organize massive protests that have literally toppled entrenched governments. Gen Z is writing a brand new global protest blueprint here. They're using humor to bypass traditional censorship, creating these highly resilient networks that older, traditional political structures just struggle to counter or even comprehend.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative question. Can a movement built entirely on internet satire actually convert its massive digital swarm into lasting structural political change? We've seen them master the algorithm, outsmart censorship, and successfully take their digital masks to the streets. But whether the Cockroach Janata Party fades out as a fleeting internet joke or forces real systemic reform in India's education and employment sectors is a story that Gen Z is actively writing right now. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes peeled to see what this swarm does next.